Hey kitchen people, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make homemade marshmallows. I've never been a huge fan of store-bought marshmallows, but as soon as I made homemade vanilla marshmallows, there was no going back. These are so much fluffier and more flavorful than the ones that you can buy in the store, and they're fairly easy to make with the stand mixer. Keep watching to find out why I say fairly and not just easy. This is the first video that I'm posting to YouTube that has not gone as well as I would have liked it to, but I'm keeping in my 2 critical mistakes so that you know what not to do when you are making these in your kitchen. There were 2 critical mistakes I made that I will tell you when they happen so that you can make sure that they don't happen in your kitchen. But I do promise that if you've never made marshmallows before and you're kind of on the fence and you think you might not be able to do it, I have tons of tips to make sure that these marshmallows turn out, or at least you know where you went wrong for the next batch. Before we even start on making the marshmallows, we are going to line and oil an 8-inch square pan. This is really important because the marshmallow sets quickly, and if you do not do it in advance, you will regret it. I'm speaking from experience. I use 2 sheets of plastic wrap here, and because this is a USA pan, the plastic wrap really likes to stick to it, so I wrap it around my fist and then pop it in. Push these corners in. And because I made it just a little bit too short, just one more here for good measure. So that is fully lined. Then I take a little drizzle of oil, and this bottle still has marshmallow on the side from when I made it 2 days ago. I do a little drizzle and then rub it around with my fingers. You can use a spray oil. I don't have any on hand, or I would use that. You just need a light coating. Don't go too crazy. A few drops is more than enough. Now that we have our pan prepared, I'm gonna set it aside and then we can start on our sugar syrup. Oh! Actually, we're gonna start by soaking our gelatin. In the bowl of a stand mixer fitted with a whisk attachment, I'm going to add my vanilla bean paste. You don't have to splurge on vanilla bean paste if you don't have any. Vanilla extract works just fine. Use the same amount. But I like the little speckles that the vanilla bean paste give the marshmallows at the end. Then add half of your water. It doesn't have to be perfect, but get close enough. We're gonna use the rest of this water in our sugar syrup. Then we're gonna add in our gelatin. I'm using half of a box here, which is 2 packets. You can find these at most grocery stores in the baking aisle. Sometimes it's easier if you take this off. I just sprinkle it over the top of the liquid, and that is going to soak while we make our sugar syrup. Gelatin needs to bloom in order to work properly, so that's what this is called. That's what we're doing. And then we will make our sugar syrup. This is comprised of sugar, just plain granulated white sugar, corn syrup or golden syrup. Finish this off with the rest of our water. I give this a stir until it's all just about combined. That looks good. Then I attach a candy thermometer. You do not need a candy thermometer for this recipe, but I find it's very helpful. This one is pre-programmed to a lot of different candy and sugar settings, so I don't even have to set it. I turn it on and it's already set to the soft crack stage. We're gonna heat this sugar syrup to 270 degrees Fahrenheit, 132 Celsius, which is the soft crack stage. It usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes on medium heat for the sugar syrup to reach 270 Fahrenheit, 132 Celsius. 132 Celsius. If it's taking longer than that, increase the temperature. I've brought these homemade marshmallows to quite a few events and I've had a lot of people ask me how to make them. And I say, oh, it's easy. You just pour hot sugar syrup into a KitchenAid mixer bowl with the whisking some gelatin and flavoring in there. They kind of look at me like they can't tell if I'm joking or not because that doesn't really sound easy, but it really is easy. There are just a couple of things that you need to be careful of so that it's not really dangerous like it sounds. Mixer is going slow enough at the start that you don't really have to worry about it flinging sugar syrup all over the kitchen, and even if it was going higher, because we're pouring in the sugar syrup so slowly, there's not too much of a risk of it hitting the tines, especially if you have the sugar syrup hug the sides of the bowl. I'll show you how I do that. I'm telling you this now because as soon as that sugar syrup reaches 270 Fahrenheit, I need to pour it in here. Once your sugar syrup starts to boil, I like to give it a stir or a swirl every couple minutes just to make sure that I'm evening out any hot spots and that the candy thermometer is giving me the most accurate temperature. Sometimes if you don't swirl it, the center can be cooler than the outsides, and if your candy thermometer is in the center, the outside could be closer to 290 while the center is just hitting 270, and at that point it's going to be too hot to turn into really good marshmallows. The easiest way to stream hot syrup into a KitchenAid mixer is using a pan that you have a good grip on, that's not too heavy, and then slowly pouring it onto the side of the mixer bowl. You want to make a thin stream that goes straight down into the center with the whisk on. If it hits the tines, it will either splatter up onto the edges of the bowl or start to kind of crystallize on the tines of the whisk because the whisk is a lot cooler than the 270 degree syrup. If some does get on the tines or on the sides of the bowl, it's not that big of a deal. If you end up with more than, say, half of your sugar syrup on the sides of the bowl, you are probably pouring too quickly. Ooh, okay. Okay. Ooh, yikes. So this is hot. I'm gonna remove the candy thermometer, put it on my counter here. I wait a couple of seconds for the bubbles to go down considerably. The bubbles make it a lot harder to pour it in one stream because you've got you can have a stream that's going like this and then a bubble comes and it goes like this and wait until it stops bubbling and looks more like this. This is manageable. I'm gonna turn on the stand mixer and I don't think you can normally hear me over it, so we might have to dub this over. So I stir all of the gelatin together just to make sure that it's combined. And then I start pouring this in. I am going slowly. Never had that happen before. If I pull the marshmallow up right here, you can see that it starts drooping a little bit. That will still give you a good marshmallow, but for the fluffiest marshmallows, I would continue whisking for another minute or two. This is holding its shape really nicely. So I'm gonna call this good. I like to get the whisk in here and scoop a big chunk out. And you will have these strings, you just gotta deal with them. I oil a spatula. I normally do this ahead of time. Use your oiled spatula to get in between all of the tines here and just push the marshmallow into the pan. The faster that you can do this, the better, because the marshmallow sets really quickly. People say that and you think like, oh, really quickly. No, I mean, if this takes you more than 5 minutes, you are going to have whatever is left in the bowl stay in the bowl. A big ol' scoop. Unhook your bowl if needed. And just scoop. So you'll see is really getting in there. Kind of like a web. Use an oiled offset spatula to kind of help guide the marshmallow off of this spatula. And then I think I could get another little scoop out. About this point, it is a lot easier to accept defeat. If you're thinking, oh my word, this is gonna be a nightmare to clean, soak it in water for 5 to 10 minutes, comes out with a rinse. It's glorious. So then I'm going to put a little bit of oil on my hand for easy refinishing purposes, and then spread this marshmallow out in the pan. This, I usually have to re-oil after every spread or so because you are spreading the marshmallow out. Ooh, okay, so this is great that this happened on this one. I made a batch right before this and it didn't do that thwompy thing, but if you notice these kind of lumps, it's where the sugar cooled off before it got mixed into the gelatin. So this is like what gets stuck on the side of a tine and then gets thrown back into the mix. It's pretty hard and not exactly enjoyable. This is also kind of why I like spreading out the marshmallow, because I can find those if that happened. For the record, this has only ever happened while I have been filming. This has never happened when I don't have to worry about camera angles and temperatures and pouring in the syrup just normally. So if you're making it at home and you're thinking, ooh, like she's made these a lot of times and this didn't turn out like super great this time, no, you'll be fine. I follow my own rules, but then I'm talking in front of the camera and I just, you know, we lose track of time. I like getting it right over into the edges. This looks pretty good. This is great for licking the bowl if you can get in there. The flavor is astounding. And you can see I'm trying to get some out right now, and there is like a 0% chance of me getting anything usable. At this point, I just have to eat it. Fortunately, this is sugar, it dissolves in water. So if you soak this 5 to 10 minutes in the sink in warm water, this will all rinse out and it will be like this sticky nightmare never happened. If you're making this with kids and you give them the whisk, just be careful that there aren't any little sharp shards on it, because the sugar, if it does get on the tines, tends to cool as it's getting spread outwards, and it can get a little bit sharp. Just something to keep in mind. I'm gonna stop before I get this all over my hair. I was going to be a little bit sneaky and just transfer this marshmallow that I made 3 hours ago into this same pan and then swap them and say, look, this is how it looks after it's set for 1 to 2 hours. But I think this is a really good opportunity to take this one out and show you the difference in height that you'll get if a lot of the sugar ends up on the side of the bowl or on the whisk and just not into the marshmallow itself. This one is still pretty loose because I just put it in here, but it'll hold its shape long enough for you to see what the difference is. If I can get the plastic wrap off. Come on. These are nonstick for everything other than plastic wrap. So it's still all on the plastic wrap, but you can already see there's a difference in height here. And a difference in definition. This, you can see all of the swirls. This one is turning out a lot flatter. Still a good marshmallow. This is a great marshmallow. And because these are for a barbecue and I want thicker marshmallows, I am going to try folding over this slab because I want them to be a little thicker. I'll have a picture at the end to let you know how it works, but I think this will work out pretty nicely. And because I made this one 3 hours ago, it's fully set and I can cut into it. It won't lose its shape. You can see if I poke it, it goes right back to where it was. Before I do that though, I am going to do up the dishes. That's the thing with my blog, is I always include the number of dishes and a cleanup rating for every recipe so you know exactly what you're getting into before you make this recipe in your kitchen. The first time I made marshmallows at home, I was so enthralled that I was following the recipe but not really thinking about it. And for one of the last steps, you're supposed to dust the marshmallow slab with powdered sugar and then flip it over onto a cutting board. I didn't have a sifter at the time, so I had just sprinkled the powdered sugar on fairly heavily with my fingers and then flipped the slab over away from me. And when it hit the board, it was like a cannon went off. There was powdered sugar everywhere, across the counter, onto the kitchen stools, onto our kitchen table, all over the floor, and I think even onto the blinds behind our table. It took me an hour to clean up, and my husband still laughs about it to this day. For cutting marshmallows, I like to dust a little bit of my powdered sugar right on top and rub that in with my fingers. It will make your fingers a little bit sticky from the powdered sugar, but it's better than having your marshmallow stick to your cutting board. Just be sure not to just plop this straight down because you'll end up with powdered sugar going everywhere. I am speaking from experience. You are more than welcome to do that if your kitchen needs a full deep clean, because that is the only way that you will get all of the powdered sugar out. Trust me. Like to do the same thing on the back side. Just rubbing it in here. And I use a chef's knife to cut the marshmallow in half. I go directly down. I don't do any sawing motions. And that makes it so that the marshmallow unsticks from your knife really quickly. If you do a sawing motion, you may want to oil your knife. See how it just kind of pulls right off, and then I clean up the edges. To prevent them from sticking together too much, I stick the cut sides of the marshmallow on the back of the marshmallows next to it. And I rotate everything 90 degrees and do the exact same thing. Cut in half. These I want in s'mores, and so this square shape is perfect. You'll get the exact same graham cracker to chocolate to marshmallow ratio every single time, which is my favorite part. Love having things even. If you have some that are sticky on the edges, like here, my finger is starting to stick, I just dab it in a little bit of the powdered sugar that's on the cutting board, or you can have a bit larger of a bowl to dip them into. And I always tap it off because this powdered sugar does go everywhere. I store these at room temperature in an airtight container for about 2 weeks. That will be their prime freshness. You can roast them just like normal marshmallows. You can melt them down and put them into Rice Krispie treats. You can dip them in chocolate. You can, like, whatever you do with marshmallows, you can do with homemade marshmallows. They just taste a lot better. They're a lot fluffier. Look at this squish. Okay, I'm gonna put these in a container. These still have a little bit more setting left to go, so I won't cut into them on camera today. And then these are ready for any outdoor summer adventures that you want to bring homemade marshmallows to. And like I said before, I've never really been a fan of just eating marshmallows straight, but these have such a good vanilla flavor and they're so fluffy. It's like biting into a vanilla flavored cloud, and I really don't know anyone who thinks that doesn't sound amazing. Yeah, these are good. The full recipe for these homemade marshmallows is on my website at floralapron.com. I have linked it in the description, along with an Amazon storefront of every single baking item that I used here today, in case you're in the market for a handy thermometer or a pot with a spout on it. And my next video is going to be a full kitchen tour where I show inside of my baking drawers, my fridge, my pantry. Anything you want to know about my kitchen, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to get it in my next video. And finally, because I do have to get going for this barbecue soon, if you liked this video, I would appreciate you giving it a thumbs up and considering subscribing to see more content like it. Thank you again so much for watching this video. I'll see you next time in my kitchen. Bye. I have so much powdered sugar on my hands right now. It's getting all over my dress. Hey kitchen people, welcome. That was a princess wave if I ever saw one.